I was going to start this video off with a gag about jigsaw puzzles, but I don't have any jigsaw puzzles, so we'll just have to piece it together with these. I've got some blades here. DeWalt DCS 334, 9 my luck, there's a newer one just come out. HiKoki CJ18DA, Makita DJV182 and Milwaukee M18FJS. They're displayed here in the order of RPM, 2500, 3200, 3500, 3500. One has a battery gauge. Two come with variable speed dials. One of them has an adjustable blower. Set in this position, it will blow away dust from the front. Set the other way, it helps to fire stuff out the dust extraction port at the rear. Three of them have a manual trigger lock, so you can't accidentally pull the trigger. One of them has an electric one. This one also has a trigger lock on. That's a handy feature if you're going to put it in a table, or you're doing a lot of cutting and you don't want to hold your finger on the trigger all the damn time. They all have lights. Three of them stay on quite a long time. One of them only stays on while you have your finger on the trigger. DeWalt is the brightest, Milwaukee probably second. They all have a toolless blade change system. But the Makita works slightly different. When you open it, you basically cock it. Then when you put your blade in, you just push it in and it automatically locks in place. And you only need this lever to eject it. Then it's ready to go, just pop it in again. Very easy. Three of them have variable speed triggers. One of them, however, does not. It does have the variable speed dial that we talked about earlier, but when you pull the trigger, you only get one speed. And this one starts off a little different in that it starts slow, gives you a soft start. Once you're into the timber and it feels a bit of resistance, it then ramps up to the speed that you have set on the dial. But it still remains a one-speed trigger. There's no variability to the trigger, it's on or off. Now a lot of guys don't like that and I totally sympathize. If you have the old brushed version, you have variable speed in the trigger. Now I think variable speed triggers on a jigsaw are a total necessity, so it's a bit of a shame that they didn't do it with this one. But as this is an old brush tool, it is not being put in this particular test. Maybe I'll do a comparison with this one in another video. Now jigsaws these days, as well as reciprocating, in other words going up and down, they also have an orbital function where they come forward. So if we take a look at one of them here, this part here drives your blade and it goes up and down like that. But if you stick it in the orbital mode, it also goes backwards and forwards like that. So if you add back and forth to up and down, you end up with a sort of elliptical motion. That helps you cut much faster. All four of these tools have 4 settings for this. You can have the orbital turned off. You'd use that for fine work. It's much slower, much better for just doing nice fine stuff, thin stuff, delicate stuff, that sort of thing. If you want to whack off a lot of timber really quick, that sounded dodgy, you whack it into orbital mode and that will chew through much quicker but leave a much rougher surface, much rougher cut, a lot more splinters. But if you need to just hack some stuff out of the way before you get to what you really want to do, that's the setting you want. And there's 2 other below that, both of them being orbital. I tend to use the fine one a lot of the time, and if I'm going through something a bit thick, I'll use the full-on one. I very rarely use the other 2 in between. 2 of them require a tool to change the angle of the base, and these both have the tools stored in the base. These 2 have a far better system as far as I'm concerned though, because they have a lever that unlocks the base. You then push the base forward, turn it to the angle you want, and lock it up again. They also both have detents. This one has them at 45 either way, and 90 in the middle, so it locks good and proper. Much easier to get these 2 on 90 than it is the other 2. And the Milwaukee has a few more detents for getting a few more angles set nice and quick. All 4 of them come with these clear plastic splinter guards that slot into the base. These 2 come with dust nozzles. This one you can buy it as an optional extra, and this one I'm not too sure, but maybe you can, maybe you can't, dunno. 3 of them come with a protective removable plastic sub base. The HiKoki, it seems to be an optional extra. And none of them seem to come with a straight guide or rip fence type tool. Enough talk, let's cut. I'm going to start with these quite thin blades. These narrow ones like this are best for cutting curves. If you have a wide blade, it's much harder to curve that blade, of course, so you don't get as nice a cut, and the blade can tend to flare out, and you'll end up with a cut that isn't vertically straight. It'll be flaring off to the side. So these blades are basically designed for fine curved cuts. So we're going to go cut a circle with each of these on the fine setting. Then I will chuck them onto the highest orbital setting, and we will do the same task. We'll cut through 19mm pine, doing approximately 6-inch diameter circles, or 150 millimeters. Now it seems these blades I purchased are completely useless with these jigsaws. Look how much of the blade protrudes. Absolutely hopeless. Only any good if you want to cut something no thicker than about 2mm. So with the Milwaukee and the DeWalt, the blade barely gets past the base. Even with the plastic off, never going to get through what I want to cut. It says up to 35mm in here. Well, that's absolutely useless because it only does 2. Makita, you'll get a little bit more. You could cut 10mm, maybe half an inch with that. And the HiKoki, the best depth. So it wins some points there. If I was doing points on this video, the HiKoki would win that round because you can cut more like 15mm to 20mm with that one. Whereas, as you can see, the DeWalt sitting down with the blade in it, just about sitting flat. What a pain in the butt. So I am going to have to come up with a different test. Wow, we'll use the same test, I'm just not going to be able to use those blades. I'm going to have to use thicker blades like these. Hopefully some of these are long enough to actually get through this damn timber. Don't buy a 77mm long blade if you own a DeWalt or a Milwaukee. So rather than waste money opening that one, I think I might take that one back, because 90mm still might not be long enough for the DeWalt and the Milwaukee, so I am going with the 105mm long ones. Hopefully this blade is long enough to cut something that thick. That looks a bit more like it. Not going to be the nice cut I was hoping for, but let's go give it a go. At least these short blades get fairly decent cut depth with the 12V Makita. So they all did that task perfectly well. We were using straight cutting blades instead of curved blades, these thin ones, better for the curves. So you can see there's a bit of a flare out at the bottom there. I was running them as fast as I could and trying to do it all in one go without stopping for you guys. So there is a bit of a flare out on these. If you were using thinner blades going at a better, slower speed, you won't get as much of that flare out. I was going to do 2 cuts with these blades, 2 circles, but I was going to do it on the fine and the full oscillation. But now I've decided I am going to just do, whoops, well, I'm going to knock the camera, then I'm going to do some straight cuts, no circles, 1 cut on the 0, 1 cut on the 3 on each tool with the same blades. The Makita was a bit unruly when I stuck it onto the high oscillation mode, as was the Milwaukee, which, boy oh boy, don't know how much you saw in the video of that, but when you stuck this in the full oscillation mode, it was full on, out of control, bouncing around like crazy. It had so much power, it wanted to cut that thing so damn fast. Without watching the videos, this what felt like the quickest, probably followed by the DeWalt, Makita, HiKoki, something like that. The Makita, a bit hard to tell of course because it has that slow start and then you can't control the speed after that. It's just whatever you've set the dial to, which is super frustrating. I can see why so many people are so annoyed about it. It's one of the comments I've heard the most about Makita tools, is that issue with the Jigsaw. as well as when are they ever going to do a framing nailer. Anyway, next test we are going to cut something deep. These are all classified as 135mm jigsaws. Now 135mm, that's pretty darn deep. So I'm going to chuck in a blade like this. We'll put these, just by comparison. Let's have a look at that. As you can see, substantially bigger there. I'm going to use blades like this, and we're going to cut through 100 by 100mm posts. That's 4x4, and see if they can do it. It's going to be a real test. They'll all be on the full oscillation mode for this, else it'll take forever using the fine mode. Fine mode, much better for thin stuff. If you want to hack through something like I'm going to do now, chop the top off a post, you want to do it as quick as possible, and for that you're going to have to put it in the high oscillation mode, else you'll be there for a week. Shook the tool out of the tool. Well, there was two that I liked during that test and two that I didn't like. I didn't like the Makita and the Milwaukee. The Milwaukee bounced around like crazy, and the Makita did a similar sort of thing, just was all over the show. The DeWalt was the nicest, I found. It had a good mix of speed and power. The HiKoki did the job nice and smoothly, but a lot slower than the others, but it did do a nice cut. Well, without watching the results of that, it was pretty clear the Milwaukee powered through that test. The DeWalt also did very well. I hated the Makita. That variable speed dial instead of a trigger is awful. It's okay probably if you do the same sort of cuts all the time through the same materials and you know what speed you want it at, then you can just set it at that speed, pull the trigger, away you go. But then it's also got that soft start thing, which is much nicer if you can control it yourself with the trigger instead of it doing it when it wants to. I find that the slow start lingers on too long. It doesn't need to carry on as long as it does. Not like in the Makita at all. Stick with the brushed one. When it comes to stroke, they're basically all the same. These three are 26mm, this one 25. So nothing to change any results there. The stroke, in case you don't know, is the up and downy motion. So it'll go down 26mm, back up 26mm, down 26mm. That's your cutting distance essentially. The Milwaukee on the left is the heaviest, the HiKoki the lightest. 2,170 grams, 1935. Right, it is time to add up the points. Did I do points? The scoreboard has seen better days. Time to retire it, I think. Okay, we didn't do points in this one, so we'll have to do it a different way. I was using these the other day to do a job. I used all four of them and I kept coming back to one in particular. I'm going to rank these from least best to best. In least best position, the HiKoki. I find this is a disappointing tool release from HiKoki or Metabo HPT. It feels a bit more like an entry-level jigsaw. They do also have a 36-volt model, which I hope is a lot better than this one. This does not have the power that the other three have. The bevel marks on here are completely useless because they don't line up with the arrow. That's way down the other end there, even when you slide this forward as far as it will go. This area here is a problem. It doesn't take too much research to find out how many people have had problems with this area. It is very flimsy feeling, it rocks around, the shaft moves, it just does not feel like a high quality tool that you would expect from HiKoki, and that's a real shame. Hopefully I'll get the 36 volt one day and we can have a look at that and see how much better that one is. So, least best. Which is second least best? Second least best, I'm picking Makita. The ability to not have a variable speed trigger control is just, it just ruins this tool. This is a nice tool once you get going. It's nice and accurate, it feels nice. I like the 2-finger trigger. I like that you can lock it on I hate the fact that you have to push this damn button every time you go to use it. All the other ones you pick it up, you pull the trigger and away you go. This one every time I go to pull the trigger, it's like, what the hell? Oh yeah, turn it on. So that's annoying. But that soft start and no variable speed trigger, only being able to control it with a dial, makes this one a fail. And then there were two. Now I said earlier that this one didn't have a tool on board because you didn't need it, because you had this lever here. This lever, by the way, very flimsy, just plastic, it bends all over the place, which is disappointing. The one on the DeWalt is metal. It does have a tool. I found the tool when I was cutting through that 4x4 as it vibrated out the back of the tool. You will have also seen this one didn't quite get through, I don't think, that 4x4. Depth of cut not quite enough, and it was just catching a little bit on the bottom. This thing vibrates like crazy. In that high oscillation mode, it is not a nice tool to use at all. It just blows around all over the place. Speaking of blowing, it blows better than the others, blows all the dust and stuff out of the way. The DeWalt. The DeWalt is a nice compact feeling tool, which is strange from DeWalt. DeWalt tools are often rather large and clunky, but this has a good center of gravity. Feels nice when you've got all the weight down here, and it glides nicely. It's good solid construction. It's a nice weight. It's got the dial in a good position here, even though you don't need it because it is a variable speed trigger. It has a metal bar here just with a plastic tip on the end so you don't cut your finger open. Very good base. Oscillations aren't too violent. It has the nicest system on the front here for getting your blades in and out. So the bestest jigsaw of these four, in my opinion, is the DeWalt. This tool is the best mix of speed and power and features. It is a nice tool to use, and yeah, that's my winner. That's the one I think is the best out of those four. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you on another one soon. If you've got any suggestions for other videos, leave them down below. Tons more videos coming up. Hopefully I'll get out some more 40 volt Makita stuff soon. So until then, have a good one, and I'll see you later. I know the video has a 5 amp hour on the Makita when I said it was going to be a 6. It's because I was comparing it to this and I chucked on a couple of 5s and yeah, forgot to put the 6 on. Anyway, it makes no difference to the overall opinion of the tool and really makes very little difference to any power.